We are welcoming today to Patriots Corner Podcasts, Ray Kerr, Navy SEAL veteran, 10-year Navy SEAL veteran, and also host of the TV series The Selection. Now, Ray, I wanted to first mention I got the opportunity. Of course, I watched the entire season, and I just got to tell you, last night's episode, the finale, was amazing. That was just so much excitement. Just watching everything. It was such a fantastic episode, let alone the entire series. Did you enjoy creating that series with all the men and women that went into putting it together?
Yeah, actually I did. It was done like no other show's been done before. Obviously it was unscripted, so, the gentleman, the powers that be, History Channel, Mr. Grant, who was the showrunner, producer running the show, gave us full reign to do what we do best, and that's, unleash our talents and watch people, mentally and physically break down. And then, the goal to the whole show was not to hurt, injure individuals. It was to watch individuals literally be broken down to the bare necessities, and then we rebuild them, because a lot of these individuals that came to this were individuals. When they left there, obviously you saw the I guess for a better word, the climactic ending. There was 4 members, and they were all part of the team. Each one, number 12, Ryan came in. He was waiting for Logan. Logan had no clue where Christian or number 2 was, and they were worried. And it's because they went through, for a better word, they went through HELL. It was tough, and I mean that in the most serious of ways. They went through, TV only captures so much of the real, true essence of what these men and women went through. I mean, there was real pain, there was real growth, there was real suffering, there was real, individuals who were fighting with themselves. I mean, you saw, there we had people quitting as soon as we started yelling at them. They were not mentally there. Then other individuals came there cocky and arrogant, and number 12 is a perfect example. He left a humble man. So yes, this was a project that I know I can speak for myself and the other instructors. We enjoyed doing it because it was pure. We didn't cut, we didn't say hold, we didn't say freeze, because in the real world, when you're overseas, no one can do that either. So now, granted, they got a taste. I want to make this very clear to all the viewers. They got a taste of what we go through. 12 days is just, sampling a sip of the drink. There's a lot more entailed, and hopefully there'll be more to come. I don't want to give any secrets away, but if intent there was a season 2, we will definitely come a little more prepared, and we will bring it. So,
well, I know that. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, that's the answer to that question. It was truly an honor and a privilege, because the instructors were hand chosen for that series, and I tell you, I was humbled by everyone's presence there on the set. From Ray Mendoza, who was pretty much him, and another gentleman, Mike Baumgardner, who were the executive producers making sure all this was happening, to the showrunner, Grant, who literally gave us full reign to do what we wanted, as long as it was, obviously safe, because safety is paramount.
Yeah, of course. And I could tell you, at least from me, I am hoping that there is a season 2 and more seasons to come. It was such an amazing show. And I know that I've watched your previous interviews that you've done with other people. You are you're a very real person. You are very motivating, and you capture everything that I feel that most people don't want to hear. You are a 12-year Navy veteran, 10 years spent in the Navy SEALs. I gotta ask, where did that all come from? Where did it start? That's a long time. I'm not in the military, but that is a long time, I would feel, for somebody to have spent in the military, let alone in the Special Operations Teams program. Where did it all begin for you?
I think the drive and the flame, if you will, started as a kid. If you read my bio, I didn't have the greatest childhood growing up, and I had something happen very traumatic to my father. My mom busted her tail doing the best she could raising me, and I had two avenues to choose, brother, and it was go down the wrong path or go down the right path.
Of course. Yeah, I did read your bio. I got a chance, and it was so amazing, the story. And do you feel that majority of people that would go into not only the military but the special operations teams program, do you feel that they came from a different type of lifestyle growing up that harnesses aggression and motivates them to get into the fight? What's your opinion on that?
I think the percentage of individuals that go through and actually make it through this training, I think it's something that's just embedded in our DNA, and we were fortunate and privileged enough to still have it. Now, I don't think that everybody had hardships like myself growing up. I know individuals that grew up, very well to do. But I think there comes a time when you have to just take the raw savageness of an individual, and there's still a handful of us left. In another lifetime, we would have been the Vikings, or we would have been, the hard-charging soldiers, or we would have been Napoleon's, primary hand-picked troops. We would have been, since the dawn of time, since the Greek gods, there's always been few hand-selected individuals, people, gods, warriors that have just walked the earth. I speak for myself, and I hope for others that say, we don't know who gave us that power, or who pointed their finger at us and said, hey, you've got it. But the ones that are here, don't get me wrong, even though we got that power, we had to work for it. I'll tell you what, brother, there's not a day that goes by that I'm still not, nose to the grinder trying to get it done. So, yeah, I think we just have something in us, and a lot of people aren't willing nowadays to go that deep and go that far and take it to the edge. And luckily, like I said, I get up every day and thank my stars that I had the opportunity to be a Navy SEAL, to do the things that I do now, and I'm just going to keep. I'm going to do it as long as I can. 44 years young, I've still got another. I still got another 100 years left in me. I feel like I'm immortal.
That is something to live by. That's motivating all in itself. You've motivated me already. Just with that alone, every quote that I feel that you have said has been so motivational. And one quote specifically that you did say I watched was that everybody wants to be at the top. It went along the lines. I don't know. It's not word for word, but everybody wants to get to the top of the mountain. But in today's society, more people want the helicopter ride up and want to get dropped off to look down. I feel that is true. Do you feel that today, in today's society, that society and people have gotten lazy?
Like I said, never ask me a question you don't want to hear the answer to.
Well, you give it to me. That's all part of the podcast. Go ahead.
Heck yes. This is what I think. I think society as a whole has gotten soft and has gotten weak. I'm not speaking for everyone, but majority of individuals feel like they're entitled, enabled to this and enabled to that. And I say bullcrap. You want it? If you want to get to the top of the mountain, and here it is. Everybody wants to be on the top of the mountain, but the problem nowadays is people don't want to be dropped off at the top and look down. No, you want it, go get it. No one handed me, my Trident, my Budweiser, my Navy SEAL insignia. No one did. No, and it's not just with being. And this is what's so key, and why I teach mindset to people. It's not on the battlefield where you need to have this mindset, because that's what it is. It's a mindset. Buds is literally, I swear to you, 70% mindset, 20% physical, 10% luck. People go, you're crazy. But it's true. People nowadays want, this is what I tell people nowadays. You want the CLEP course. No such thing as a CLEP course, man. And like I was saying, it's not just on the battlefield. It's at your workplace. It's what I call it, my house is the home front, you know. I'm married to a woman who's 10 times stronger and tougher than me, if you can believe it.
Yeah.
And the thing is if you want it, you work for it. I didn't just walk up to my beautiful wife and say, "Hey, I think you're a gorgeous woman. I want to take you out on a date and and marry you." Let me tell you what. If I told you the humiliating stories of how I chased this woman, but my point is, I'm not a crazy man. It's just when I know what I want, I'm going to go after it, and I'm damn sure going to get it. And if I can't, at least I can go to bed at night knowing that I gave it my all. And I instill these same rules. I have an 8-year-old daughter who's a returning state champion in gymnastics. She has it.
Wow.
And the thing is I tell everybody, it's just like the integrity and mindset. It's contagious. You have to lead by example. What I can't stand is parents that are telling their kids they need to do this, and this, and then they're hypocrites and they don't do it. I tell my daughter, to believe in this and don't say this and don't do that and give 100% effort. But in all actuality, what kind of a father, friend, warrior would I be if, I deploy overseas and I give my brothers, half of my effort? If I wake up in the morning and decide, I'm not going to do this. This is what I will tell everybody that's listening. If you want it, go get it, because in my experience, nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to give you anything free. They haven't me yet.
Yeah. Now, is that something that you have always believed ever since you were young?
I'll tell you what, since I can remember, I have always been taught, and it's been ingrained in my head, that if you want to, go get it. Nothing is impossible. This is what I tell people, You make goals. You make obtainable goals. Short, long, and middle-term goals, no matter what it is. No matter what it is, This is what I'll tell people. Don't tell me tomorrow you want to be an NFL football player. I trained 6 NFL football players.
Yeah.
And a lot of these kids have God-given talents. Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks. I've got gentlemen that play Xavier with the Houston Texans. These guys are all, genetically gifted. But, man, I'll tell you what. When all the lights and the cameras go off, these guys are still training. They're still working because they know how hard it was to get to the top of the mountain. And what I tell everybody is, brother, Jack, once you get to the top, you got to stay there because everybody else wants. It's like king of the mountain. The only way you're going to be successful is once you obtain your goals, is to constantly look for more. Like I said in the show, there is no finish line in life.
I was just about to bring that up. I remember you saying that, and that is an amazing quote all in itself. Please continue.
Yeah, my finish line, Lily, my wife, because I am a little raw, she's the educated one in the family. I tell people, I talk to my daughter's gymnastic class, and I tell them, this is horrible. Kids, your finish line is when you're dead. And the parents looked at me, and they're like, oh, I'm like, but seriously, what should I say? Once you become a state champion, you've reached your goals? No. My daughter did it. Now she wants more. Then what's next? Go up to level 10. Then maybe she wants to, get a scholarship. Heck, maybe she wants to go in the Olympics. I don't know. But my point is I tell individuals, don't sell yourself short, man. Don't do it. Because you're talking to a kid that, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I'm not. I get by with can-do attitude, personality, and I'll tell you, don't ask me a question you don't want the answer to, because I will shoot. I shoot it straight, and I expect that in return. And people that know me, even the instructors from the show, sometimes they'd be like, "Oh Lord, let's not ask Instructor Care," because I'll tell them, "This is a great idea. This is the dumbest idea I've ever heard." And that's how you have to be. I mean, I understand today we have to be politically correct, and there's that gray area.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, in order to succeed in life, gray is a smear of two colors. It's black and white. Do you agree?
I agree. Yes.
Well, guess what? I want to be black, and I want to know exactly what I'm going to go, and I'm going to get it. I don't want any colors, because all that adding that white is outside distractions or obstructions that are going to cause me not to obtain my goal. No, I'm not having it. Not on my watch.
Wow. Well, like I said, Ray, everything that you have said so far has been Great, and I agree with it completely. Like, this is Patriots Corner, so this is what I do the podcast for. I mean, I'm honored to have you on the show, and this is just it's been so fantastic. So I have to ask now. I did look. You have a very interesting story on how you got involved in becoming a Navy SEAL. It's one that when I first watched it, I had to rewatch it, and it was just something that almost looked as if it was out of a movie. And if you don't mind sharing that story, because it is so amazing and very exciting.
Now, are we talking my childhood or college with my best friend?
Well, as a child, did you? Well, we could start with that if you don't mind. As a child, did you always grow up involved in sports and involved in being outside, hunting, fishing, hiking, stuff that you would later have to do in the Navy SEALs? Is that what you grew up like, or?
Well, I grew up athletic. I grew up, like I said, I lived with my father up until I was 11 when he was murdered. I lived in the city, and no, I didn't do any of that. I was always good at sports. I was always very aggressive, always very competitive. I was a good sport, though. Like my dad was a very, very intense man, but he always said, if you give me all you got and you don't make it, then you have nobody to blame. But if you only give me 99.9% of what you have in life, then you know what, you need to go regroup and kick your own because
Yeah.
you didn't come prepared. So at the age of 11, things happen, people go away in your life, and I ended up living with my mother, single mom, and we lived in the city again. No outdoor really experience except for running the streets with a bunch of kids, Irish kid, and my mom remarried. We ended up moving out to a place called Carroll County. It's in Maryland, a little more rural, where I kind of changed my tunes. I was throw fist first and ask questions later. Met my best friend, who was the complete opposite of me. You want to talk about just fire and ice, man. He was a straight A student, you name it, the All-American kid. And I came from, rough upbringing, blah, 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 the whole story. And what had happened is a little bit of me rubbed off on him and a little bit of him rubbed off on me. And next thing you know, I'm doing better in school. I'm captain of this team, captain of the football team, captain of the lacrosse team, wrestling. Had something traumatic happen when I was in 10th grade. One of my best friends another guy was killed in an accident. I was pretty much the only one that came out unscathed, powered through. And next thing I know, we're in college. I wasn't really finding a place. I was always, I don't know if this makes sense, and hopefully, the viewers or the listeners can hear it, but I was always, no matter how much I ate, I was still hungry. So I had a taste for something, and I didn't know what it was. So I started reading a book, reading books on special forces and this and that. I don't even remember if my life depended on it, what Navy SEAL book it was, but I decided I wanted to go in the Navy, and I wanted to become a Navy SEAL. And my buddy told me, he looked me right in the eyes. His name was Bill Harmon, to this day, still my best friend, and said, there is no way you'll make it through that training. So I said, all right, and I threw an ending on there, a word that we're not going to use, and I said, roger that. And let me look. I'm looking at my bud's graduation right here. Completed August 18th, 1995. Bill Harmon, my best friend Megan Walsh, my mother were sitting front row because I told him, I will make a fool out of you, and I did it. And I put my nose to the ground, and something that people don't know is that even to get into Buds was hard for me because I didn't have the aptitude skills to do it. I couldn't pass the darn mechanical test to do it. If a train's going 50 miles an hour east, another train's going 60 miles an hour west, what train's going to get? I don't know. Why in the heck would two trains be on the same track going opposite ways? That was my question. But my point is,
I would probably ask the same question. I'd probably be the same way.
It took me a year and a half of putting my nose to the books, learning how to do the mechanical side of what I needed for the ASVABs, because you needed a certain score I failed it once. I failed it twice. Third time's a charm. I made it by 1 point. But you know what? If you need a 70 to become a doctor, and you get a 71, you know what? I'm a doctor. And, I did it. And I'll tell you what, it put a perspective on things with me. There were gentlemen that were showing up to buds that were literally quitting just to go get orders to go somewhere else, to go sit on their butts and be a police officer, which I have nothing but respect for. My dad's a retired police officer, my stepdad. But they were master at arms in the Navy, and they wanted to get off a ship. I went there with the mentality with, no, this is my time. And when I went through buds, buds is 6 months if you go through it the first time. So we're called iron horses. So of 100, and I think 50 or 60 some people, 55 of us graduated, but only 16 were original start to finish. And I'm proud that I was one of those original people. I told my mother to buy a non-refundable plane ticket. And guess what? I made her a promise, and come what or high water, I did it. So that was just one, and that's all that was a checkoff. And once you finish buds, you think you've accomplished something. That's when the journey really starts. That's it.
Wow. Now, after you had this conversation with your friend where he doubted you in the beginning, and you were going to prove him wrong, which you did, what did you do after that? Did you immediately go to a recruiter? And basically what I'm trying to ask is, what did you do before you went to buds, or did you go straight to buds?
Oh, no. So I joined the Navy, and I literally, my aptitude was so low, I ended up becoming a boatswain mate, which is means non-designated. I could have done that, or I could have been like a corpsman. So I didn't at the time. I didn't have, I was young. Probably if I could do it again, I would have became a medic, because that's obviously a very very well endowed skill that people need nowadays. So I became a boatswain mate. I didn't go to an A school like average people. I went to, it's called ATD, which is like apprenticeship training, where they teach you how to work on ships and do all this stuff. So I was like, I thought my destiny was going to be on a ship. Well, myself and another gentleman, we joined on a buddy program named Mike Holmes. We, from the day that boot camp started till it ended, we were squared away. We never gave the bosses a hard time. So when you get orders in the regular Navy, you either have sea duty or shore duty. Obviously, sea, you're out at sea. Shore, you're shore. Well, they're going through all the individuals getting their orders, and it's, sea duty, sea duty, sea duty, sea duty. We heard like one or two shore duties, and then all of a sudden, they called us up together and they said neutral duty. What's neutral duty? So we ended up working on a torpedo retriever, which is 72 foot, and we hand crank torpedoes in. We go out during the day and come back. It was the best job in the world, and myself and Mike were so physically advanced compared to everybody else. Usually a crew consisted of, you'd have a boatswain mate, the craft who ran the boat, and then you'd have an engineman, and then they'd have 7 people that would hand crank these giant torpedoes in with a diver. Well, me and Mike worked with the nastiest craft master that nobody wanted, and an engineman, and it was just the 4 of us, and we outworked everyone else. So my craft master told me, you give me 1 year of doing what I ask, showing up, doing everything, we will allow you to apply to go work at a dive locker as a mud pup, which is literally where they just torture you every day, but teach you, just kind of like we do in the selection. They torture, but there's a teaching involved with it. And he was a man of his word. I busted my butt. It was about 1 year and 2 months before I got approved. Went over to the dive locker after doing my time. So by this time, I had ended up spending about 3 years in the regular Navy. Next thing I know, I'm doing a run with Admiral Smith at the time, who was running all of the SEAL training, with another gentleman who wanted to go to EOD school. We're on about a 5-mile run. We've got about a mile left, and our master diver, his name was Ray Augustine. I'll never forget it. When we used to run on each side of him, and he called us his dogs. I was the pit bull, and the other one was the Rottweiler, because he was just of our build. And he'd say, and at the end of it, Admiral Smith was like, yeah, these guys are running good. And I remember this, master diver said, watch this. And he goes, go. And we took off for that last mile, and we sprinted because we knew the Admiral was watching. And we both ran as fast as we could. We didn't even hit the finish line, and we were throwing up. Hit the finish line, we're totally exhausted. Now, You said, why did you tell me the story, Ray? I'll tell you why. Because when I was trying to get orders to Buds, they were so overbooked, they were saying it was going to be another 2 years. After that run was over, my detailer called me 3 days later and said, at the time I was a boatswain mate, like pretty much apprentice, a BMS head. I was nothing. Said, you were leaving it on this date, Buds Class 200. I had no clue. I impressed the Admiral so much with, just the mental fortitude that it took. And, most people would have stopped and just puked. Not me. Me and another guy named Chuck, we were just side by side, puking as we go, just throwing up, hit the finish line. Legs were bloody because we just passed out on the concrete. And literally, Master Diver and the Admiral rolled up. They didn't say one word to us. They didn't act impressed at all. But they were. But they weren't going to give us an inch because they were opening the door for us to start that journey. So myself and Chuck, we both went on to do exactly what we wanted. We were successful. And I think the reason that we have become so successful is just like I'm going to go back is telling people we fought for it, man. No one gave us anything. No one gave us anything. And that's why at everything I do, even if it's cutting the grass, I try to do the best possible job I can because I owe that to all the people that have sacrificed before me, police officers, doctors, lawyers, obviously military servicemen. I owe it to them to try to be as perfect as I can and as patriotic as I can for every single thing I do. That's it.
Wow. Now, when you found out, after hearing that they were overbooked, when you found out that you were getting pushed up to try out for Buds, what was that feeling like? That had to, you knew that the journey was not over and it was only going to get tougher, but what was that like? Because that's something that I'm always curious about, is somebody who is in the military doing a different job, then you get offered the opportunity to try out for this elite program, the Navy SEALs. What was that like? What you had to have some sort of feeling.
So what was it like when I got accepted, or what was it like when they told me I was going to be declined for a while?
What was it like when you got accepted? After you impressed the Admiral, what was that like?
There's a few things in life that mean a lot to me. My marriage, my wedding day my kids were born, the day that I got my trident, and probably the day that I was told that I was selected, because I had worked for 3 years. And when I say 3 years, I mean when all the other guys were going out and blowing their money, going out chasing skirts and, doing everything that guys do. Hey, I'm not trying to be offensive here. That's what we do, guys. This is America.
Very true.
I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and going for runs, riding my bike because I was stationed in Seattle. And on the weekends, I wouldn't go out. I would only go out maybe on like a Friday, because Saturday morning I would sleep in, but Sunday, we'd be right at it. My nose would be in the grindstone again. So, yeah, it was exhilarating. I was terrified and humbled, because I'll tell you what, I thought I was ready when I showed up at Buds. And when you show up and you see, now, there's two calibers of individuals when you show up at Buds. There's people that put in the work and people that don't. And the people that put in the work, I was running with collegiate athletes, guys that were in the Olympic. A good buddy of mine made the Olympic trials for swimming. It is humbling. So you try to find your place in the den quick. It's a pecking order, but you want to be humble. And the trick is, like with me with Buds, is I did the best I could, but you don't want to be the best at everything, but you sure, don't want to be the worst, because you try to stay out of the spotlight. You need to be that, and that's what they do. They already start molding you to be that quiet professional. But don't get me wrong, there has to be one head of something. Pull-ups was my big thing, and the bear crawl. Everybody had an event that they were really good at. I was second in my class for pull-ups, but I was the fastest bear crawler that they've ever seen. I can almost bear crawl as fast as I can run.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. It's my first initial reaction was, it was just, I was process overload, and I was like, it was surreal. I was like, no way. this isn't real. And then, you go into almost like denial, and then all of a sudden it kicks in, and it's like, when that happened, I was like, oh my Lord, I'm leaving in 6 months. Now I really need to start picking it up because, now the what has really hit the fan, and it's for real. So I turned it up even more. I think some people would have just been, let's make this happen, and I'm ready. My mindset was, oh my Lord, they're looking at me right now. I need to pick it up. So I increased everything I did by tenfold with the help of, I had instructors, divers. That one diver was a former SEAL who was helping with a lot of things. And really, when you're going through training, they'll only give you so much. They'll tell you, we're only going to give you a taste of the milk, just like I told you before. You can only have a sip of what the gods drink. If you want the glass, brother, you've got to put in the work, and then you can sit back and enjoy it when the time comes.
Wow, and very true too. And it just goes on with saying how you said that the fight's never over. There's never ever an ending, which I admire so much because I do feel that I agree with you that in today's society, people want to see that finish line. People want to know when something's going to be done. Connecting it over to the television show, The Selection, something that impacted me the most, that I was amazed on how regular civilians could go through, was the torture training episode when they were put in the box. What you can share, obviously I know you cannot share everything, but during that training, when you went through it for real through BUD/S, or if it was not through BUD/S, if it was after that, how did you get through that? I mean, that just looked so uncomfortable. And
yeah, no, I mean, we go to SEER, it's a school, it's an advanced school. So at the time I went through, now with everything that's happened with conflicts and stuff, you get it pretty quick within training. But it's after BUD/S. I had to wait a few years. Just to, I won't give you all the secrets, but we spent about 24 hours in a box. It's a lot longer, and you have to do a lot of soul searching. And for me, what got me through it is I try to put things in perspective so people can understand, because unless you've been there and done that, people can't. So the movie Happy Gilmore, you better find your happy place, man. And you better my happy place is my business. I tell it at some of my things, but my happy place has changed over the years. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So back then my happy place might have been a beer and riding my Harley. Now my happy place, if you ask me, is my wife and my kids. So when things get rough right now, I tell people, when you're going through training like that, okay, I like to be very visual here for the individuals. Have you ever made spaghetti? Spaghetti, right?
Yes.
So you boil the noodles, you get a strainer, you put the spaghetti in, strain out all the water, right? Okay? So this is what I tell people in some of my classes. When you're in that place, you have to get that strainer. Your mind has to be that spaghetti, and you have to just let all that negative, all that doubt. I mean, you saw Christian yesterday. I'm in the blanking box again, right? Why am I doing this? You have to let all that doubt and fear and negativity, it just has to you have to find a place to channel it and make it go somewhere. So what do? I literally make a joke, and I always say I'm going to break out the strainer and I'm going to go to work. That's when things are tough, like if I've got a long ruck I'm going to do or something, because I'm 44, I still put 50, 60 pounds in and do the ruck runs. But it's not only for something, I want to make this clear, maybe even you've had, I'm sure, battle some things to get in the position where you're at. I mean, you're talking to me right now. There probably was a whole lot of other people that wanted to be where you're at. So obviously, you did, in your own way, you've done that same type of thing too. Now, you may have your own methodology of doing it, but for me, I love food. My wife's Italian, so that's how I do things. And when I give my mindset courses, people are like, that is the most simplistic thing I've ever heard. And I'll tell you what, brother, I've been in Albania when it's minus so cold you can't even talk, in 8 foot of snow, and a snow cave where I can't even feel anything. But if you don't find your happy place and you let that negativity consume you, it will eat you alive. So what I tell people is find your why. We talked about that on the show. Everybody has a why. If you don't have a why in life, you will die. You will. You'll fade away and you'll die. My why right now is be the best. And, I'm an entrepreneur, but that means nothing to me. Everything with me is family. I want freedom, so that's me, defending my country, what I do with my own religious beliefs, because I don't talk about any of that stuff. But I want to be the best I can, and I have a pecking order. And for me right now, family comes first before anything,
Of
And
course.
obviously, I try to carry on and maintain a positive reputation for myself, and I'm always trying to instill positive, days. But I'll tell you, just like I tell everybody else, I don't get up every day and go, "Hey, world, let's go." There's days when I get out of bed and I'm like, I'm human, oh my Lord, I got to do this. But the difference between what I like to say is achievers and non-achievers is, I put my boots on, just like if I've gone through a ruck hump. If my feet are swollen, I will still put those boots on, because if I don't, then that's going to cause a domino effect. And with me, it's I'm not doing something for my family. So if anybody asked how they do it, find your why. If I have to sum this up, find your why. If you don't have a why in life, you need to find one. I don't care what it is. Family, friends, education, money. I don't care what it is. And then what you have to do is when you know what hits the fan, guys, you have got to be able to strain out that negative or channel that negative into positive, You have to be able to harness it. I've learned how to harness with my childhood and all the crap I've gone through. Deaths of teammates and, family members and father being murdered and, just fighting as a kid. I've learned how to harness, rage can be good. I'm not saying go around being an animal, but you have to be able to control the rage. And the way that you do that is you analyze, you assess, and then you execute. That's what I do. It's a 3-step process. And please, I'm not saying execute in a bad way. You have to execute, which means carry out that task order, that mission. So when someone gives me something to do, it's a thought process, and it happens in a millisecond. If you leave one of those steps out, you're going to fail. So go get it. That's it.
Yeah. I noticed when you said find your why. When I watched the entire season. I remember during one scene of the interrogation end of it. I won't say specific because I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to do that. But there was an individual who did not make it through, who really couldn't explain his why, and he seemed as this. The instructors, I felt, had that vibe that he was almost mocking a little bit. Were you able to tell immediately at the beginning of the show, having already
Number
been
7.
through? Yes, that I was gonna. I didn't want to. I didn't know what to say and what not to say.
Oh, no,
But
no. Hey, listen, here's the deal. Number 7, I think, thought he knew what he was getting into. I don't care. Like I said, he actually wrote me. He's wrote us. It took him a while. He had to do some soul searching. I just don't think he was in a good place at the time, and he was trying to take, the issue was we were feeding him too much water. Now, the real issue is it was 115, 110, 115 degrees in that room, and if we didn't force feed him water, we would have had serious medical issues. Now, Instructor Koontz, Bert, is probably one of the top medics I've ever met in my life. We had other medics standing by, but make no mistake about it, Bert made sure that medical was key. He gave us briefings on what he wanted and what needed to be done. He had charts. And, individuals that come from, he was a well-to-do individual who was used to making his own rules. He did not like being told he had to do something. He didn't mind the screaming music. He didn't mind the boxes. He didn't mind being uncomfortable. He just didn't like being told he had to drink water. He felt helpless. But
yeah,
he was sadistic. Anything else we threw at him was fine. But my point is everybody has a breaking point somewhere. It just so happens, as idiotic as it sounds, his was, he did not want to be told he needed to drink water. And now, he may have been fighting some other demons, and he may have used that as an excuse, just like the one guy did with saying he had pancreatitis attack, which if you watch the show, I walked out because I was just so overwhelmed with, oh my Lord, are you kidding me? That people will always try to find a way to justify why they're quitting something. because they're taking the easy road. You know, he was being challenged in a way that I think he's never been challenged before. He didn't like it, and his body said, hey, figure this out because I'm not happy. And that's where the mindset comes into play. Physically, he was a specimen. We couldn't break him. He didn't even shake when everybody else was freezing because he literally, his mind was great there. But it's something as simplistic as saying, you're going to drink this water every 15 minutes. His body said, I can't take that. I can take everything else. That's too much. And he's gone.
Yeah, of
and
course.
And here's the thing. He's got to live with that for the rest of his life. And he wrote us, and he does. He has to deal with that for the rest of his life. You can't hide that demon. That demon, because here's the thing. He didn't give it his all. He threw in the towel. And people have to live with that. I went to buds with people in 1994, 95, okay?
Yes.
I have people that quit, still call me to this day, and it's the biggest regret of their life. How many years is that? Do the math. I'm 10...
Yeah, that's
22 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I remember during that interrogation, they asked him why not join the military, and what's your thoughts on that? Especially, not to bash him specifically because I wouldn't want to do that also, because it was such an amazing show and you guys did such a great job. Me, I'm someone who idolizes you guys. You guys are the elite superheroes. I put you above any form of a celebrity, athlete, anything. You guys are the real heroes. When they asked him why not join the military, and he said, I'm deeply considering that, or I will consider that. What was your thoughts on that? Did you take that as an insult? Because how you just said, we'll go out and do it. I feel that it's almost disrespectful. What were your thoughts on that?
I didn't take it as disrespect. I think everybody's wired different. Like I said, everybody wants to have a taste of it. It's, like I said, some people don't like the structure. Here's the deal. After this was over with, right?
Yes.
Did anybody go to war?
Yeah, no, exactly.
No. I think people are trying to... This show was more about finding yourself. I know everybody thinks, I went through SF training, I went through the selection. They went through a taste of something that challenged them mentally and physically. And it made them better people. And like I said, literally, we strip them down like Naked and Afraid, except they have nothing. But when we strip them down, it's not only with their body, it's with their mind. Most people don't mind. You strip someone down buck naked and put them there, but you strip their mind of everything. You don't allow them to think, eat, drink, blink their eyes without us. We brainwash them. Once people do that, they're not really... I don't think a lot of people want to put that effort forth for the rest of their life. I mean, you talk to number 12 in them, he was like, this is the most exhilarating thing I've ever done in my life. He wrote this post. But he said, I wouldn't want to do this every day. And you know what? I respect him for that. Now, he goes out and he wins races. And he's sponsored and he'll probably be on The Bachelor because the women love him. Great. Love it. He just has a different path than us. Like I said, it's a hard question. I didn't take it as an insult because I do know number 7 right now, and he has the utmost respect for the military. He does.
Of course, yes.
But
yeah.
he's man enough. But he was man enough to say it's just not for me. That's it. It's not for him.
Yeah.
Just like my wife. My wife is mentally tougher than me. I will say it in front of I don't know how many listeners you have. Navy SEAL's wife is, and she's just pulling up at home, is tougher than me. But she's not getting up at 2 in the morning and doing a 12-mile ruck hump. That's just not her. Even if she was a man, she's wired different. So, it's just everybody has their own path, Now, what I will have an issue with and what I will square off with any man in the world is if he says, I'm anti-military and I'm this and I'm that and I don't love my country, then we're going to have a problem, Jack. Because and let's not even talk about what I've done. Let's talk about the real heroes, the people that are still doing it. And it doesn't have to be the Navy SEALs, the SF, the SEAL Team 6, that's the big show now, or the CAD guys. I'm talking about the cook that's up before anybody else making the food. I'm talking about the people that bring their mail. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps right now.
You're
Everybody
giving
that's
me
in this,
goosebumps.
it is, because it's the truth. It's just like the military is like a football team. We're kind of like, the SEALs and everything right now. We're like the star quarterback that you see. But it's all the people that are doing the front line work, all the assistant coaches, the trainers, because I work with the UCLA Bruins, and they've got a staff of all these people, and all you see at the end result is, the Bruins and a few coaches. But there's hundreds of people that put in the work, behind the scenes. They're the real heroes. So I want to make that clear, So when I understand you give us the most respect, but it's everybody, man. I mean,
Oh, of course, and I want to say that too. Yeah, no, I do 100%. The entire all military branches, give 110 respect. Of course, without saying, I agree with you completely. And I watched, I listened to when you spoke about when you gave your seat on the plane, and I thought that was so amazing to the veteran for first class.
Well, hell yeah. I mean, we're talking Normandy, brother. I mean, you want to talk about, we wouldn't have the freedoms we have now if it wasn't for those. I got to watch my leg because I get so fired up. Those heroes, and like I said, you've got these people that are flying nowadays that are using their frequent flyer miles that are like, I'm not giving my seat up. I was honored. I physically went and said, you will take this seat, you old SO, you know what? Because
Yeah.
I can talk to him like that because he knew it was respect. You and your wife, and you will get up here. Of course I would. I'd do it again. And that's not, I don't know if that's good upbringing because, my mom's a strict woman, but that's respect, brother. And, like you said, respect is earned and is given. And let me tell you what, that gentleman and his wife that I gave the seat to, they earned mine, bar none. And I mean, I do. I got goosebumps left and right. I would have moved my whole family back in coach if I had to, and they would have done it without a doubt. They wouldn't even have second guessed. They would have just been like, okay. And my wife hates to fly.
Yeah. Well, that just goes and signifies, such amazing brotherhood that you guys have in the military. Now, I want to ask you two more questions before we do end the podcast.
Sure.
One being, what's your thoughts real quick on everything that is going on political based? Now, I know you don't have to talk about it if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't want to. Me personally, I'm really sick of seeing the protest. I will be honest, this is my opinion. I know it is, you're right. I'm not in favor of it. I don't believe in what they're doing. I think it's anarchy and I think it's crap, to be honest. I think it's terrible. I am so happy when I see the law enforcement officers go in there and take care of what is going on. What are your thoughts on that? Now, I am a Trump supporter. I'm a conservative, but I wanted to get your thoughts.
Well, I am a Trump supporter. My family's a Trump supporter. And, me and my wife actually have very in-depth conversations about this. And, I'm not going to sit here and play the political role. But here's what I know as how the parties and how America split up. And this is what I tell people. If the Democrats would have won, right? Let's just say the other person would have won. And, Glenn Doherty from Benghazi was my best friend who was killed. So I would never have voted for Hillary in a million years, and I want to make that very clear.
Of course not. I'm right there.
But
just listening to her, it was horrible.
So my question is, and this is what I ask people, is if you guys would have won, do you think we would have been doing that? And you know what they say? No, of course you wouldn't, because it is anarchy, and it needs to be handled. And I think, his slogan, it's let's make America great again. We need to do it.
Of course, and it's going to happen.
Reagan has, President Reagan's been turning in his grave because it's killing him. We need to get this back. And I mean, I hope that we can, establish some form of law and order in this great country. This is a great country, and it's going to what right now because we are enabling these people to do this. Let me tell you what, go overseas to a couple of countries that I visit and try doing this, and a couple things are going to happen to you. You're going to get whipped. You're going to get put in a jail where you have no rights, or they're going to do something very extreme to you. And that's the thing, you know. We've got all these things going. You even got the women's rights things going on right now.
Yeah, everything that was just being said.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's terrible. Burning flags, desecrating American flags. It's almost, you have to just, you got to let it out at some point. For me, at least, it's hard to keep calm. It's just like, it almost makes, it's just terrible. It's awful to see, and it's un-American, and it's just terrible. It's disgusting.
Here, I'll give you my answer. You ready for my non-political answer?
Yes, sir.
You don't like it? Leave.
I'm with you there. I support you with that. I agree completely. And, just the
I'll
fact
help you pack your bags. I'll fly there and help you pack your bags. I have no problem with it. I will drive you to the airport, and you can go somewhere else and live.
Exactly. I agree. I agree so much. Thank you for sharing that answer. I have one more question for you before I thank you so much for being on Patriots Corner on WSRU radio station. Now, if somebody wanted to do the selection, what would you tell them to do? Is there a certain process that they have to go through? Did you select them based off of?
Well, okay. There has been, I think, applicants that have applied for season 2. We've put out, there was a application to apply from the History Channel. Right now they're closed. Now I don't know. We're waiting to see what's going to happen. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we have it. But that's the easy part. What I would tell people is you better come ready. And people are like, well, what do I train for? This is what I tell people. You can't train for everything, so train for anything. And people are like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, it does. You got a taste of what we did. You better be able to carry a lot of weight with a ruck. You better be able to be cold. You better understand we're going to yell at you. You better be able to do hundreds and thousands of push-ups. You better come with the right mindset. Number 27, I love her to death. She missed her kids.
Yeah.
You have got to mentally disassociate from everything in the outside world and focus on this, because when you go through training like this, you cannot have any outside distractions. People are like, hey, they always ask me that. I want to be a Navy SEAL. How do I train? Well, I can give you a little bit of it. Well, yeah, but the mindset. I teach mindset courses, but it's not something that I go, hey, Matt, listen, if you follow, because I have 5 points of performance, just like shooting is 7 points of performance. If I tell you that real quick, you're going to data dump it. But it's a process. So what I tell people is make sure your physical game is up. Make sure that you can withstand the cold. How do I do that? Well, start taking some ice baths. You're going to be cold. And they're like, oh, that's a good idea. Go run with boots on. And it's the thing. I have no clue what we're doing, because we are so sadistic. We make this stuff up as we go. Literally, we sit down about a week before and go, let's do this. And they're like, we love it. We love it. And that's what we do. Because it's organic that way. Because the show is unscripted. We may change something on the fly. That's what made it so great, And something I want you guys to notice too is, the one thing about the show that I love is, you notice every time somebody quit, we never degraded or humiliated anybody.
Never, ever. I watched every single episode, and for those who are listening and did not watch, first off, they got to watch. Two, that was so amazing too that never happened. If anything, you guys built them up.
And the reason for that is, and I'm going to make this very clear, is because each person, even the first person that quit, left there stronger and better than when they came. That's what's so key, and we saw it.
Yeah. Well, Ray, you know what? I'd like to thank you so much for being on Patriots Corner with me, Matt, on WSU radio station, taking the time to speak about your journey. So amazing. And thank you so much for your service. It's been such an honor to interview today.
Well, myself and my family, I'm here with my wife. We want to thank you for the opportunity to speak and, do everything and just get my words out there and my message. But like I said, guys, what's the toughest thing in the world? It's not a Navy SEAL. It's his family and his wife.
Ray, thank you so much for being on here today, and thank you for your service, and good luck with everything that you have in the future. To you and your family, good luck to your daughter. It was such an honor to interview you, and you're a true American hero and such a motivator to everybody. And I really would like you to know that, and I really, really appreciate it from me personally here at WSRU radio station and Patriots Corner. Thank you so much. I can't even begin to express how amazing this podcast has been. Thank you.
Pleasure's mine. God bless.
God bless. On WSU radio station, wow, what an amazing man. True honor to interview him. We'll be back on Friday, and catch me from 2 to 4 for the Patriot Corner on WSU radio station.